Do you ever feel like your life is just one big game? Remembering memories in flashback form is so much fun. Nothing makes me happier than this time that I get to spend with all of you, my friends. Isn't this great, Squidward?
Oh, sure. There's nothing like a trip down memory lane.
Oh my God, Squidward, I feel a memory forming, and you're in it! Remember when you had your first Krabby Patty? Remember that new patty smell? The taste?
Ah!
If I can only get as happy as you did when you first bit into that hot, juicy, savory patty. The crisp lettuce, the tangy pickles, the pillow-soft buns. Oh, I tell you, there is nothing like a Krabby Patty. Ah! Squidward, I think I remember where I put the secret formula. Uh-oh.
Welcome to the best boss fight in the game against Robot Squidward. He has a cool gimmick, a cool battle arena, and you actually need to memorize some patterns in order to beat him. Well, I mean, you don't need to memorize the patterns, but it helps a little bit. So the only thing we need to worry about in the arena is that we actually need to press buttons to lower some of the panels or we can't proceed forward. Some pieces of the arena also function like little seesaw platforms, but we can just jump across those. After we get rid of the robots in front of the gumwad, we can then use the gumwad to hit Squidward's eye. If we're buff SpongeBob while we hit his eye, we deal more damage. He does bring his tentacles up to defend his eye. At first, it's just a really simple on and off kind of thing. But he moves his tentacles increasingly faster and in much more difficult patterns. So I'm sure you've seen this attack somewhere before in a video game. We just need to jump over his tentacles as they come around. It's really simple, and he stops doing it soon enough. You may also notice that the arena got more complicated this time with vents of steam shooting out. We can actually jump around these vents of steam if we want to. We're supposed to wait for them to go away, but, you know, jumping around them works just as fine. This time after we clear the robots in front of the gumwad, we actually need to disable this plume of water before we can hit Squidward directly. We do want to be buff SpongeBob when we hit Squidward, because it deals the most damage. Still not too hard to find an opening this time around, even though he does move his tentacles a lot faster. This boss has design that I would say is even on par with design from Battle for Bikini Bottom. And there was supposed to be a Squidward boss in that game, but if I recall correctly, it was very different. Still, I like pretty much everything about this boss fight. The atmosphere of the level, it takes place in the Krusty Krab's freezer with buckets of Krabby Patties hanging overhead. The way the arena tries harder to kill you as the boss fight goes on, the way Squidward's pattern gets more difficult, the way even attacking him directly gets more difficult because you have to remove the water. All of it just works really well. There's so many pieces that all come together. It's a shame I don't see this level of creativity and fun in the rest of the game, but it's here in this boss fight. So that's pretty sweet. Again, not that the rest of the game isn't fun, because it is, it's just the design here is so much more interesting and actually, you know, challenging. As will be illustrated here, where I start having literally the worst problems with Squidward's pattern. Literally the worst problems.
Feeling a little gassy? Scrumptious. Too bad you can't remember where you put the formula. Pretty soon you'll probably forget how to even make a Krabby Patty.
Don't say it! I'm so close to remembering where I put the formula. I can almost taste it. A patty, not the formula for the patty, which was written on a piece of paper that I'm sure doesn't taste too great. Ah, well, I'm remembering again. But I'm still not happy enough. Okay, SpongeBob. Crying isn't gonna bring your beloved secret formula back to you. If I keep going, sooner or later I'm bound to remember. I hope. I can almost remember where I put the formula. Almost. I haven't been this worried since I worked the 24-hour shift and had to take out the trash.
The hash-slinging slasher!
Hand-slinging slasher!
Years ago, at this very restaurant, the hash-slinging slasher used to be a fry cook. And every Tuesday night, his ghost returns. By the way, SpongeBob, it's your turn to take out the trash.
Alright, so welcome to Rock Bottom. You can see the bathrooms from the Rock Bottom episode over to my right. Of course, Rock Bottom was not in the hash-slinging slasher episode, but you can't build an entire level around just that. So they just strung several slightly moody SpongeBob themes together. There's the hash-slinging slasher Rock Bottom, and elements of Road to Shell City from the movie. Yeah, we'll see lots of large creatures, some of which are undeniably from the movie and the movie game in this level. Anyway, here's our first real challenge of the level. We have to make it inside that giant fish monster's mouth before the timer runs out. There are plumes of water in between the gum wads sometimes, but if we ever worry we're not going to make it, we can just jump off the gum wad to make the timing a lot more lenient in our favor. You can actually get hit pretty easily though, because a lot of the water spouts alternate pretty quickly. But when you're an insane person who practices an easy SpongeBob game before you actually record it, then you'll do fine.
Signs that signal the approach of a hash-slinging slasher. First, the phone will ring, and there will be nobody there.
I love the implication in this game that SpongeBob's memories are really screwed up. This is some messed up stuff. Also, this creature we're inside has way more organs than anything should have. But who knows, maybe all the games made by Heavy Iron Studios just take place in their own canon, so this isn't actually messed up, and this is how these episodes went in this canon. That jellyfish jelly segment was very easy, aside from the robot. The bungee cords were very easy to avoid. This bit isn't as easy because we need to get to that boombot and disable it so we can roll it. But we need to not get hit by any of the backup robots while we're at it. Thankfully, with our reflecting ability, that is actually a bit easier. Though these other robots can reflect the shot as well, so that would suck. Those elastic gum bungee cords are supposed to be there so that if we bump into them while we're rolling the boom bot, it will fly out of our control. But it's so easy to avoid them that it's not a problem. Though the gum cords do appear in the last level of the game, and they are more difficult in that instance. After we activate these platforms, we can hop our way over to an extra. It's not really an important extra because we already have so many extra lives. But who's going to say no to a 3-up? By the way, I've made fun of it a couple times, but I do love how surreal the levels are, how they're all this really messed up interpretation of actual events. I think that works in the game's favor. It's not nearly as surreal as Creature from the Krusty Krab, mind you, but that game is all kinds of special, in a good way. We have to lower what I assume is digestive acid before we can hop down there. Because the exit is through this thing's teeth. Since it doesn't have a butt, it has 2 faces. And the exit is through the teeth, and we can't get through the teeth. Not even when we're buff SpongeBob, so we gotta find a way to fix that. It's time for something you probably didn't learn in biology class. Just remember, if any of this seems weird or stupid, we are in SpongeBob's head right now. so it's only as stupid as SpongeBob is. And I really wish that soft heartbeat noise would stop because it's kind of freaking me out. Now we can just hop right through that thing's teeth, and it didn't seem to scream in pain when we busted its teeth out, so maybe they were rotted to the point that he couldn't feel anything? Or maybe he just doesn't care. Maybe he's really chill like that. And again, here I am looking for logic in SpongeBob's mind right after I warned you not to do that. I do get hit here so I can stop to show you the serpent from the road to Shell City doing a backflip. And then I actually have to destroy these two robots so I can show you another Easter egg. Well, I have to destroy one of them anyway because the other one just kind of disappears inside those boxes in what I assume is a glitch. But anyway, after we walk over here, we can see some shadows of monsters dancing down there. That's pretty sweet. The lava waterfalls are pretty sweet too. Right here, we just need to time our cannon shot so that way we can actually hit the pink target. I'm not sure if anyone would have trouble timing this. Even if you just mash the button, you would probably hit it. The wooden platforms past these tikis will actually fall down. And they fall slowly enough that you can move right to the next one with no issue. But I like making this big jump right here. Makes me feel all special. I called the crates tikis again. But the battle for Bikini Bottom temptations are so strong. We used Patrick only very briefly for this section before we run into a wall that we can't pass. We need SpongeBob to activate the paddle. For this next section, I'm going to be using some pro speedrun strats, but not really, because I've seen a speedrun of this game and I can't do that. But the idea is to get from this end of the room to the other end as quickly as possible. And if we jump off the gumwads, we can skip quite a few of them. Thanks to our double jump and sand slap attack, really it's no issue. I mean, they put the ability to do this in the game, so maybe they expected this. Or maybe it's just an accident that jumping cancels everything else, but either way it helps. Here's another let's take a break from the game design hallway, but we're going to want to hold on to this buff SpongeBob power-up for something that's at the end of the hallway. They seem to put a lot of stock in the idea that smashing tons of crates at the same time won't get old. And to their credit, I still think it's fun. Yeah, if you touch Squidward while he's freaked out like that, then he just gets angry at SpongeBob instead and forgets all about being scared. I mean, really, we're doing him a favor. And right here's the reason we wanted to hold on to the buff SpongeBob power-up. It's not that this could be difficult, but it could be time-consuming, since the enemies spawn relatively far apart. This boat we're on reminds me of the Flying Dutchman's boat, which reminds me of the level with the Flying Dutchman in it in Battle for Bikini Bottom, which reminds me of the Revenge of the Flying Dutchman video game, which was the first 3D SpongeBob title. It can at least compete with SpongeBob Super Sponge. I mean, you can say that about it. If I recall correctly, the PS2 version was infamous for having a loading screen glitch that occurred relatively frequently and would crash the game. The folks who made it were apparently passionate about SpongeBob and really wanted the license, so it's a shame it didn't turn out very good. Oh, thank God the battle is over. I can stop with the SpongeBob trivia. Over here to our right is a 1-up, and not a lot else. We are up next about to enter the most difficult platforming section in the game. And it's honestly pretty fun, and I dig it. First, we have to move this platform in a similar fashion to the platforms in the Mermalair. This is the only time this kind of platform appears in this level, which makes it very bizarre. These rotating platforms right here, we can negate their movement just by jumping constantly like the conveyor belts in the Mermalair. SpongeBob moves far too fast and accurately for them to affect him in any way. And I like these seesaw platforms with the electric barriers in between them, but you can also just jump right over the electric barriers. We can also jump around these fists, as I'm about to demonstrate. Something I've noticed is that the Mr. Crab crates have $ in their eyes. That's a cute detail, but it still makes me wonder why they explode. We can stand on the same platform as this fist without getting hit by it because there's enough room. And this little crosshair of electric barriers is actually the hardest jump in the game, but we already got it over with. You know, this level is a lot longer than I remember.
The walls are bleeding special sauce. What's next? Mustard in the urinals? A plague of pickles?
If you're getting really tired of us having this buff SpongeBob power-up, don't worry, it will disappear shortly. Not for a reason I agree with, but it will disappear, so you won't have to hear this music anymore. In this room right here, we learned that Absorbent Bob can actually defeat enemies with this spray of water. It doesn't stop them from running at us, so it's not very effective, but it works, as you're about to see. That enemy will constantly respawn until we jump up there and destroy the spawning machine. Having a respawning enemy in this section is actually good game design, since your offensive options as Absorbent Bob are rather limited.
I feel 32%.
Squidward was looking a little scared, so we just smacked him again and now he feels better. I mean, I guess whether it's better depends on whether you prefer feeling angry or scared. Hey look, it's that Roadway Serpent from way earlier in the level, only this time we actually get to walk on it, which is pretty cool.
I am the sponge! This is kinda neat.
In this area, we need to activate a button with our cannon shot over there to proceed. But there's an obstacle that would get in the way of our shot, so we need to go and get something to remove that obstacle. And we've only been given access to one mechanic that lets us blow stuff up in a useful way. So I'm sure you saw this coming. Even if you didn't see my inability to reflect the shot coming. We do have to steer the Boombot through a tiny maze, but it's very easy. You do have to adjust for momentum, but the way you do that feels very natural, so there's no issues controlling it. There are more difficult Boombot mazes in the final level. I like that right here we watch our shot bounce off of screen somewhere we can't see, but it hits something useful, because it allows us to proceed. We are going to need the Boombot again, but we're not going to need to go through a maze this time. We're just going to need to steer it around the enemies in this area. If you're thinking we could have destroyed the enemies ahead of time, we could have, but they would have respawned just for this bit. But actually steering the Boombot around those enemies is no problem, since the area you have to maneuver is so big. Just like in the Murmelair, we have to destroy 15 enemies to end the level, and just like in the Murmelair, more than 15 will spawn. But the level ends immediately when we reach our quota. We're saving the Squidward power-up for later. It is the most appropriate power-up for this place, since there are a lot of holes in this arena, and sadly we can't lower the robots down them. For some reason they're smart enough not to walk into them this time. Or rather, there appears to be a force field that stops them from falling in, but the effect is the same.
For some uneasy listen to the clarinet of doom. That's what I call Squid War. Take that, you lesser than. My clarinet is in some.
Squidward likes one-liners so much, he had to make sure he got all of them out at once. He didn't want to waste any time.
The shadow of the slasher! I think I just inked in my pants. I can't believe I was reduced to tears by a wannabe fry schnook.
Yay! We're not going to be horribly mutilated by your...
Not sure what was up with the audio syncing there, but I'll see you all next time for the final level.